Maria's hands moved with practiced efficiency across the polished marble countertop, a silent testament to years spent cleaning in houses far grander than her own. Each swipe, each scrub, was a small battle fought in the quiet war against dust and disorder. A war she waged daily to keep a roof over her daughter Elena's head. They lived in the United States, a land that promised opportunity, but often demanded every ounce of your strength to grasp it. Maria was a single mother, and her life was a constant juggle of work, bills, and the unwavering hope that Elena would have it better. Elena, now a teenager, often joined her mother during school breaks. She wasn't just there to help. She was there to learn, to observe. Her eyes, keen and bright, took in everything: the expensive artwork, the gleaming chandeliers, the silent luxury that hummed through the vast rooms of the Harrison mansion. This place was a world away from their cramped apartment, a stark contrast that fueled Elena's quiet ambition. She saw her mother's tired shoulders, the lines etched around her eyes, and vowed to herself that she would break the cycle. She dreamed of a future where Maria wouldn't have to clean other people's homes, a future built on her own hard work and the sacrifices her mother had made. The Harrison mansion itself was a spectacle of opulence. Sprawling across acres of manicured lawns, it boasted more rooms than Elena could count, each filled with furniture that probably cost more than their entire year's rent. The owners, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, were rarely seen. Their lives seemed to exist on a different plane, one detached from the everyday realities Maria and Elena faced. Elena often wondered what it felt like to live in such a place, to have so much, and yet to seem so absent from it all. Their detached lifestyle was a puzzle Elena often pondered, a stark counterpoint to the close-knit, if financially strained, life she shared with her mother. One particularly warm afternoon, after finishing their tasks at the mansion, Maria and Elena stopped at a small, unassuming cafe for a quick, affordable lunch. It was a treat, a little break before heading home. Elena, munching on her sandwich, let her gaze wander around the bustling room. That's when she saw her. An elderly woman, sitting alone at a small table near the window. Her clothes, though clean, were worn and a little too big, hanging loosely on her frail frame. She wasn't eating. Instead, her eyes followed the movements of other patrons, lingering on their plates with a look that Elena instantly recognized as hunger. It wasn't a demanding stare, but a quiet, almost resigned longing. The woman's hesitant demeanor, the way she clutched her worn handbag, all spoke of a quiet desperation. Elena felt an immediate tug in her chest. She glanced at her mother, who was absorbed in checking her phone for messages. Without a word, Elena slid out of her seat. She walked over to the counter, her small allowance clutched in her hand. "Excuse me," she said to the barista, her voice a little shy. "Can I buy a meal for that lady over there?" She pointed subtly towards the elderly woman. The barista looked at the woman, then back at Elena, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "Of course, honey," she said gently. Maria, finally looking up, saw Elena at the counter, her brow furrowed slightly as she realized what her daughter was doing. Their budget was tight, every penny counted. But then she saw the elderly woman again, and the look on Elena's face, a mix of determination and pure empathy. Maria sighed, a soft, almost inaudible sound, and gave a small nod of approval. Elena, empowered by her mother's silent consent, ordered a warm soup and a sandwich, the most comforting meal she could think of. She carried the tray carefully to the elderly woman's table. "Excuse me, ma'am," Elena said softly, placing the food in front of her. "I hope you don't mind, but I bought you some lunch." The woman looked up, her eyes wide with surprise, then slowly filled with tears. She blinked, and Elena noticed a strange, almost piercing glint in their depths, quickly hidden behind a veil of gratitude. "Oh, my dear," the woman whispered, her voice a little shaky. "You are so, so kind. Thank you. Thank you." Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the spoon. Maria joined them, offering a small, reassuring smile. The elderly woman ate slowly, savoring each bite. Between mouthfuls, she managed a few more words. "It's been a long time since anyone showed me such sweet generosity," she said, her gaze drifting into the distance for a moment. "Life has a way of taking unexpected turns, doesn't it? One day you have everything, the next, well, you learn what truly matters." She didn't elaborate, didn't complain. Just a few cryptic phrases that hinted at a past Elena couldn't begin to imagine. Elena felt a strange connection to the woman, a sense of shared humanity that transcended their obvious differences in circumstances. It was a brief, unforgettable exchange, a moment of pure, unadulterated kindness that left a lasting imprint on Elena's young heart. As they finally left the cafe, Elena couldn't shake the image of the woman's grateful eyes, nor the quiet mystery that surrounded her. The world, she realized, was full of untold stories. Elena couldn't shake the image of the elderly woman. Her act of kindness at the cafe had settled deep within her, leaving a warm, persistent glow. She kept replaying the scene in her mind. The woman's surprised look, the tears welling in her eyes, the quiet gratitude in her voice. Who was she? What was her story? Elena found herself wondering about the circumstances that could lead someone to such a vulnerable state, observing others eat with longing eyes. It bothered her, a nagging feeling that tugged at her thoughts even as she tried to focus on her homework. Maria, ever the pragmatist, noticed Elena's preoccupation. "Elena, I know you meant well," she said one evening, gently folding laundry. "But we have to be careful. We have our own struggles, remember? We can't save everyone." Maria's voice was soft, but her meaning was clear. Their own financial situation was always precarious, a fragile balance of paychecks and bills. While she admired Elena's compassionate heart, Maria also worried about her daughter getting too involved, too emotionally invested in the hardships of others when their own lives offered little cushion. She reminded Elena of their own small apartment, the worn furniture, the careful budgeting for groceries. They couldn't afford to be reckless with their emotions or their limited resources. Meanwhile, life at the mansion where Maria worked continued, seemingly untouched by the outside world. Mr. Harrison, the owner, was a name spoken in hushed tones, a reclusive billionaire who rarely made an appearance. Maria knew him mostly through his personal assistant, a stern woman named Brenda, who relayed his instructions with cold efficiency. Mr. Harrison was often traveling, or so Maria understood, leaving the vast estate to the care of his staff. His presence was a distant echo, a shadow in the grand hallways. Maria had only seen him a handful of times in the years she'd worked there, usually a quick nod or a brief impersonal instruction. He was a man of immense wealth, yet he seemed to exist in his own isolated bubble. Over the next few days, Maria started noticing subtle changes in the mansion's atmosphere. There was a new, almost imperceptible tension among the staff. Security seemed tighter. She saw new faces among the guards, and the existing ones seemed more watchful, their radios crackling with low whispers. Conversations among the housekeepers and gardeners were cut short whenever Maria approached, leaving behind an uncomfortable silence. She overheard snippets of discussions. words like missing person and family matter floated through the air, quickly snatched back as if they were secrets. Maria tried to dismiss them. It wasn't her place to pry, and these wealthy families always had their dramas. She focused on her tasks, polishing silver, dusting antique furniture, trying to ignore the undercurrent of unease. Her job was to clean, not to get involved in the owners' complicated lives. Elena, however, couldn't let go of the elderly woman. Her mind kept drifting back to the cafe, to the woman's eyes, to her cryptic words. There was a nagging feeling, a persistent curiosity that refused to be silenced. She began to observe her surroundings more closely, not just at the mansion, but everywhere she went, hoping to find some connection, some answer to the questions that lingered in her mind. She looked at every elderly woman she passed on the street, searching for that familiar face, that unique glimmer in the eyes. She felt a strange pull, a sense that the story wasn't over, that there was more to learn. One afternoon, while Maria was cleaning Mr. Harrison's vast study, a small accident happened. She was dusting a high shelf filled with books and framed photographs, a shelf she rarely touched. As she reached for a particularly heavy book, her elbow accidentally bumped a silver-framed picture. It teetered for a moment, then fell to the plush carpet with a soft thud. Maria quickly bent down to pick it up, her heart racing slightly. She hated breaking anything, especially in this house. It was an old photograph, a little faded and blurry, showing a family. A man and a woman stood in the center, 2 children beside them, and an older woman seated in a chair. The faces were indistinct, softened by time and the poor quality of the print. But as Maria righted the frame, preparing to put it back, her gaze lingered on the older woman in the photograph. There was something in her smile, a faint curve of the lips, a certain tilt of the head that struck Maria as vaguely familiar. It was just a fleeting resemblance, a wisp of an image. But for a split second she thought of the elderly woman from the cafe. Then she shook her head, dismissing the thought as quickly as it had come. It was just an old photo, and the woman at the cafe was probably just one of the many struggling people in the city. The world was full of faces that looked similar. She carefully placed the photograph back on the shelf, making sure it was secure this time, and continued her work, the brief moment of recognition already fading from her mind. It was just a coincidence, she told herself. Nothing more. Maria had too much on her plate to entertain such fanciful notions. She had a home to run, bills to pay, and a daughter to raise. The dramas of the rich were not hers to unravel, but still, a tiny seed of thought had been planted, a connection, however faint, between the 2 women. Behind the perfectly composed facade, Mr. Harrison presented to the world. A storm raged. He was consumed by a desperate and agonizing private search for his missing mother. His mother, Eleanor Harrison, a woman of sharp wit and vibrant spirit, had been diagnosed with early-stage dementia a few months prior. The diagnosis had hit him hard, bringing with it a wave of regret for the years of strained silence between them. He had arranged for the best care, a private nurse, a secure wing in his sprawling estate, but despite all precautions, she had managed to wander off almost a week ago. The guilt was a heavy, suffocating blanket. He knew, deep down, that their complicated past had contributed to her current vulnerability, to her feeling lost even when she was home. Mr. Harrison had deployed a vast network of private investigators, the best money could buy, to scour the city. He wanted every corner turned, every stone unturned, but he insisted on absolute discretion. The media, vultures that they were, would turn his mother's disappearance into a sensational headline, a scandal that would only add to his family's pain. He needed her found, quietly, without the world dissecting their personal tragedy. His reputation, his business, his very carefully constructed life depended on it. He couldn't bear the thought of his mother, already confused and afraid, being exposed to public scrutiny. He pictured her face, the worry lines etched deeper with each passing day, and a cold knot formed in his stomach. His mind often drifted back to their troubled past. Eleanor had been a force of nature, a brilliant businesswoman in her own right before she married his father. She had high expectations, and their relationship was often a clash of strong wills. He, too, had been ambitious, driven, perhaps too much so, always striving to prove himself, to meet her unspoken standards. He remembered heated arguments, long periods of not speaking, a chasm growing between them that neither seemed able or willing to bridge. He had been so focused on building his empire, on proving his worth, that he had neglected the one person who had truly shaped him. The regret was a bitter taste in his mouth. He wished he could go back, talk to her. Just listen, truly listen, to what she had to say. He wished he had cherished their time together more, before time itself began to steal her memories. Then, a glimmer of hope, a fragile thread in the tapestry of his despair. One of the investigators, a sharp ex-detective named Miller, called him late one evening. Miller spoke calmly, professionally, but Mr. Harrison could detect a subtle urgency in his voice. "Mr. Harrison," Miller began, "we have a potential sighting. An elderly woman, matching your mother's description, was seen in the downtown area, near the old Franklin Street Cafe. The report mentions she appeared disoriented, but was helped by a kind young girl who bought her food." Mr. Harrison felt a jolt, a surge of adrenaline mixed with a wave of dread. Hope, raw and powerful, warred with the terrifying image of his mother, lost and confused, reliant on the kindness of strangers. The thought of her, Eleanor Harrison, a woman who once commanded boardrooms, now reduced to such a vulnerable state, was almost unbearable. But the mention of the cafe struck a chord. The Franklin Street Cafe. He knew that cafe. It was a quaint, unassuming place, but he had occasionally frequented it for discreet business meetings, appreciating its quiet anonymity away from the usual power lunch spots. It was close enough to the mansion, a familiar landmark in the area. Could it really be her? Could this be the breakthrough he had been praying for? He clenched his jaw, a new resolve hardening his features. He had to go there, immediately. He had to see for himself. He had to find her. The weight of his guilt, combined with this newfound hope, propelled him forward. He felt a desperate need to make things right, to bring his mother home, and perhaps to finally understand the woman he had always admired but never truly known. He dismissed Miller, promising to call him back, and began to ready himself for the most important search of his life. Mr. Harrison drove himself, his usual chauffeur dismissed for the evening. He navigated the familiar streets of the city, his mind a whirlwind of anxiety and a fragile hope. The Franklin Street Cafe was still open, a warm glow spilling onto the sidewalk from its large front windows. He parked a block away, not wanting to draw attention, and walked the rest of the way, his heart thumping a steady rhythm against his ribs. He pushed open the door, the small bell above it jingling softly, announcing his arrival. The cafe was quiet, only a few patrons scattered at tables. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and something sweet, maybe cinnamon rolls, filled the air. Behind the counter, a woman with kind eyes and a friendly smile was wiping down the espresso machine. She looked up as he entered. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft. Mr. Harrison approached the counter, trying to keep his voice even, professional. "Yes, I was told. I'm looking for information about an elderly woman who might have been here recently. Perhaps a few days ago?" He tried to sound casual, but the tremor in his hands betrayed his composure. The cafe owner paused, her brow furrowing slightly in thought. "Elderly woman? We get a lot of elderly customers. Was there anything specific about her?" "She was a bit disoriented," Mr. Harrison explained, choosing his words carefully. "And she might have been helped by a young girl, a girl who bought her food." A flicker of recognition crossed the owner's face. Her smile returned, even warmer this time. "Oh, yes, I remember her. A sweet lady, very quiet. And the girl, oh, she was an angel. Such a kind heart." The owner leaned slightly over the counter, a nostalgic look in her eyes. "It was just a few days ago. The older lady looked so lost, just watching everyone eat. The young girl, she noticed her, and without a word, just went and bought her a hot soup and a sandwich. Said the lady looked hungry." Mr. Harrison felt a pang in his chest. His mother, hungry. The image was a stark contrast to the life he knew she should have had. "Do you remember anything else about the elderly woman? What she looked like?" The owner nodded. "Thin, a bit frail. She had beautiful silver hair, pulled back in a loose bun. And her eyes, they had a kind of deep sadness, but also a spark, if you know what I mean. She was wearing a worn coat, even though it wasn't that cold." She paused, then added, "And she spoke very little, but what she did say was very polite, very grateful." "And the girl?" Mr. Harrison pressed, his mind racing. "Can you describe her?" "Oh, the girl. She was a lovely young thing. Maybe 15, 16. Dark hair, bright, expressive eyes. Very gentle. She was with her mother, I think. Her mother was a bit hesitant at first, but then she let her daughter do it. They seemed like good people, just trying to get by. Dark hair, bright eyes, with her mother." The description fit Elena perfectly. A cold dread mixed with a strange kind of awe settled over Mr. Harrison. Elena, the maid's daughter. The girl who often came with Maria to the mansion. It couldn't be a coincidence. He had seen Elena around, a quiet, polite girl, always with a book in her hand. He'd barely paid her any mind beyond a polite nod. Now, this girl, his maid's daughter, had shown his own mother more compassion than he had in years. "Did the elderly woman say anything specific?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Anything memorable?" The owner thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up. "Yes, she did." When the girl brought her the food, the old lady looked at her with such gratitude. She said, "Kindness is the truest currency of the heart. It always finds its way back to you." Something like that. It sounded almost poetic. Kindness is the truest currency of the heart. It always finds its way back to you. The words hit Mr. Harrison with the force of a physical blow. He remembered his mother saying that often when he was a boy. It was one of her favorite phrases, a mantra she lived by before the world, and perhaps he himself had hardened her. He had dismissed it then as a childish sentiment. Now, hearing it from a stranger who had heard it from his lost mother, it resonated with a profound, almost painful clarity. "And before she left," the owner continued, "the old lady did something else. She didn't have any money, but she took out a small piece of crumpled paper and a pencil stub from her pocket. She quickly sketched something on it and handed it to the girl. Said it was a thank you, a promise. The girl looked a bit confused, but she took it. A sketch? Mr. Harrison asked, a new wave of hope mixed with a growing sense of urgency. What was it a sketch of? The owner smiled faintly. It was a locket, a very detailed drawing of a locket. It had a unique design, almost like a family crest on it. I remember thinking it was beautiful for a quick sketch. A locket. His mother's locket. The one he had given her for her 50th birthday. A family heirloom he had commissioned with their family crest engraved on it. She cherished it, wore it every day until she started forgetting things, and he had insisted she keep it somewhere safe. He had worried she might lose it. Now she had drawn it, a clear, undeniable sign. It was her. It was definitely his mother. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening thud. His mother, lost and vulnerable, wandering the streets, hungry, and a young girl, Elena, had been the one to help her. Not him, her son, with all his resources, his power, his wealth, but a simple, kind-hearted girl who had nothing to gain. The weight of his realization was crushing. He felt a profound sense of shame, a deep, aching guilt that twisted his gut. His mother had been out there, alone, and he hadn't known. He hadn't been there. He thanked the cafe owner, his voice hoarse, and quickly made his way out. The cool night air did little to calm the turmoil in his mind. He had to find Elena. He had to find Maria. He needed to understand everything. He needed to know where his mother had gone after leaving the cafe. Most importantly, he needed to express his gratitude, a gratitude that felt too monumental for mere words. He had to make things right, not just for his mother, but for the kind stranger who had shown her humanity when he, her own son, had failed. The drive back to the mansion felt infinitely longer, his thoughts consumed by the image of his mother's locket and the extraordinary kindness of a maid's daughter. Mr. Harrison arrived at the mansion, his luxury car gliding silently up the long driveway. The grand house, usually a symbol of his success and control, now felt like a monument to his failure. He found Maria and Elena in the kitchen, finishing their cleanup. The clatter of dishes seemed too loud in the sudden quiet of his presence. Maria looked up, startled, her hands still in soapy water. Elena, wiping down a counter, froze. His arrival, especially at this hour and with such a serious expression, was unusual. His usual composed demeanor was gone, replaced by an urgent, almost desperate energy. He cleared his throat, his voice rougher than usual. Maria, Elena, I need to speak with you both. It's important. Maria quickly dried her hands on a towel, her brow furrowed with worry. Elena exchanged a quick, nervous glance with her mother. They followed him into the formal living room, a place they rarely entered, usually only for deep cleaning. Mr. Harrison didn't sit. He stood by the large bay window, looking out at the perfectly manicured lawn, but his gaze was distant. I have something difficult to tell you, he began, turning to face them. His eyes, usually sharp and assessing, held a vulnerability Maria had never seen. The elderly woman Elena helped at the cafe a few days ago. She is my mother. The words hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. Maria's mouth fell open slightly. Elena's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and confusion washing over her face. They both stared at him, trying to process what he had just said. The frail, hungry woman Elena had bought a meal for, the woman who seemed to have nothing, was the mother of the reclusive billionaire they worked for. It didn't make any sense. My mother suffers from early-stage dementia, Mr. Harrison continued, his voice heavy with a mix of shame and regret. She wandered away from her care facility about a week ago. I've had private investigators searching for her relentlessly. We finally got a lead that placed her near that cafe, and the owner described your kindness, Elena." He paused, taking a deep breath. "He also told me about the locket she sketched. It's a locket I gave her years ago. There's no doubt. It was her." Maria found her voice first, a quiet, almost disbelieving whisper. "Your mother, sir? But she seemed so alone." Elena, however, was still trying to grasp the enormity of the revelation. The kind, gentle woman she had felt such a connection with was right here, in this very house. In a way, the woman who had thanked her with such heartfelt sincerity belonged to this powerful, distant man. "She was alone, Maria." "Mr. Harrison admitted, his gaze dropping to his hands, which were clasped tightly in front of him. "And that is entirely my fault. I let our relationship become strained. I was too focused on work, on other things. I thought she was safe, well cared for. I didn't realize how much she needed me until now." His voice cracked slightly, a rare display of raw emotion. "And it was Elena, a stranger, who showed her the compassion her own son failed to." Elena, still reeling, felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Sympathy for Mr. Harrison, shock at the truth, and a strange sense of vindication. She remembered the woman's gentle smile, her worn hands, the way she had looked at the food. "She was very hungry, sir," Elena said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "She kept looking at other people's plates. I couldn't stand to see her like that. She had such kind eyes." Elena recounted the encounter, detailing the woman's obvious hunger, her quiet dignity despite her circumstances. She described the way the woman had accepted the food, not with greed, but with a profound, almost spiritual gratitude. She said, "Kindness is the truest currency of the heart. It always finds its way back to you." Those were her exact words. Mr. Harrison closed his eyes for a moment, the familiar phrase cutting him deeply. He nodded slowly. "Yes, that sounds exactly like her. She always said that." He looked at Elena, his eyes now filled with a genuine, heartfelt appreciation. "Elena, you have no idea what your kindness meant, not just to her, but to me. You showed her humanity when she needed it most. You saved her, in a way." Maria watched her daughter, a surge of pride mixing with her shock. Elena had always been a compassionate child, but this was something else entirely. "She's recovering now," Mr. Harrison continued, his voice gaining a bit more strength. "She's been with me since I found her this morning. She's weak, but she's safe. And she remembers you, Elena." He paused again, then took another deep breath, as if steeling himself for the next part. "I brought her here. She wanted to see you both. She wanted to thank you properly." He turned towards the doorway, leading to the back of the house. A moment later, a figure appeared, supported gently by a nurse. It was the elderly woman from the cafe, Mrs. Harrison Sr., though now she was dressed in soft, comfortable clothes and looked a little less frail, a little more settled. She still had the same kind eyes, though. Elena gasped softly. Maria's hand went to her chest. Mrs. Harrison Sr. looked at them, her gaze settling on Elena. A faint, sweet smile touched her lips. She slowly extended a hand, and Elena, without hesitation, stepped forward and took it. "My dear girl," Mrs. Harrison Sr. whispered, her voice still thin but clear. "My angel, you saved me." She pulled Elena into a gentle embrace, a hug filled with profound gratitude and warmth. Elena, overwhelmed, hugged her back, tears welling in her eyes. Then Mrs. Harrison Sr. turned to her son. Mr. Harrison stood before her, His head bowed slightly, his shoulders slumped with the weight of his past actions. He looked like a child, seeking forgiveness. She reached out, her frail hand touching his cheek. Her eyes, filled with a lifetime of love and a touch of sadness, met his. There was no anger, no reproach, only a deep, profound understanding. A silent, unspoken forgiveness passed between them, bridging the chasm of their strained past, mending what had been broken. It was a moment of raw, powerful reconciliation, witnessed by Maria and Elena, who stood in awe of the quiet strength of a mother's love. The air in the mansion, once heavy with unspoken tension, and the quiet hum of routine, now felt different. It was lighter, almost warm. Mrs. Harrison Sr. was no longer a ghost of the past, but a living presence, moving through the grand rooms, sometimes with her son by her side, sometimes just observing the world outside from a sunlit window. Her recovery was slow but steady, a gentle unfolding of strength each day. Mr. Harrison, the reclusive billionaire, was transformed. The hard edges that had defined him softened. He moved with a new purpose, a quiet attentiveness towards his mother, often sitting with her, listening to her soft-spoken words, a stark contrast to his previous detached demeanor. He looked at Maria and Elena differently too, with an open gratitude that was both humbling and a little overwhelming. He didn't just offer thanks with words, his actions spoke louder. Maria found her workload subtly reduced, her hours more regular, and her pay significantly increased. She was given more responsibility, overseeing other household staff, a promotion that came with a clear understanding of her value beyond just cleaning. It wasn't just about money, though that certainly helped. It was about respect, about being seen and appreciated in a way she hadn't been before. The subtle gestures, a polite greeting, a recognition of her hard work, made all the difference. Elena, however, found herself drawn to Mrs. Harrison Sr. in a way she hadn't expected. What started as polite visits quickly grew into genuine companionship. Elena would sit with the older woman, reading to her from books she found in the mansion's vast library, or simply listening as Mrs. Harrison Sr. shared snippets of her life. These weren't just stories, they were windows into a world Elena had only glimpsed from afar. Mrs. Harrison Sr. spoke of her travels, her passion for art, her love for classical literature. She had a sharp mind, even with the occasional lapses, and a gentle humor that made Elena smile. Elena learned about different cultures, historical periods, and the nuances of human emotion through their conversations. Mrs. Harrison Sr. saw in Elena a vibrant, eager spirit, and Elena, in turn, discovered a deep well of wisdom and grace in the older woman. It was a bond that transcended age and background, built on mutual respect and affection. One afternoon, Mr. Harrison found Elena and his mother together in the sunroom, Mrs. Harrison Sr. showing Elena an old photo album. He watched them for a long moment, a genuine smile on his face. He saw how Elena listened, truly listened, to his mother. He saw the way his mother's eyes lit up when Elena was around. It was then that the idea solidified in his mind. He approached Elena later, his expression serious but kind. "Elena," he began, "I've been watching you, and I've spoken with my mother. She speaks very highly of your intelligence, your curiosity." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want to offer you something. A full scholarship to any university you choose. All expenses paid. You deserve to pursue your dreams, whatever they may be." Elena stared at him, her mouth slightly open. A full scholarship? It was an impossible dream, something she and Maria had only whispered about. Her mother's entire life, had been about making ends meet, about giving Elena a chance. But university felt like a bridge too far. Now, it was being offered to her, freely. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring Mr. Harrison's face. She could only nod, unable to speak. When she told Maria, her mother collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed. Maria cried tears of joy, tears for the endless sacrifices, for the hope that had always flickered, now blazing brightly. Her daughter's future, once a source of constant worry, now shone with promise. It was everything she had ever wanted for Elena, and more. Mr. Harrison didn't stop there. He recognized Maria's unwavering loyalty and her quiet strength. He promoted her to head housekeeper, giving her a team to manage, a proper office, and a significant salary increase. Her work was still demanding, but it was no longer the back-breaking labor it once was. She had dignity, authority, and a secure future. It was a testament to his understanding that true gratitude extended beyond a single act. It meant ensuring the well-being of those who had shown kindness to his own. One crisp autumn morning, Mrs. Harrison Sr., now strong enough to walk without assistance, called Elena to her room. She held a small, intricately carved silver locket in her hand. It was the same locket she had drawn for the cafe owner, the one Mr. Harrison had given her years ago. "Elena," she said, her voice soft, "this belonged to me. It's a reminder of connection, of shared stories. I want you to have it. Let it be a symbol of our unexpected bond, and a reminder that kindness, however small, can change everything." Elena took the locket, its cool metal a tangible representation of the warmth she felt for the older woman. She knew it wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a story, a connection, a promise. It was a symbol of how two vastly different worlds had merged, all because of a simple act of compassion in a small cafe. Elena excelled in her studies from the very beginning, a natural scholar with a thirst for knowledge. The university environment, initially daunting, quickly became her second home. She devoured textbooks, engaged passionately in classroom discussions, and spent countless hours in the library, driven by a fierce determination to make the most of the incredible opportunity she had been given. Her experiences with Mrs. Harrison Sr. and her own upbringing had instilled in her a deep sense of social justice. She didn't just want to learn, she wanted to make a difference. She gravitated towards courses in sociology, public policy, and ethics, always drawing connections between academic theories and the real-world struggles she had witnessed. Her professors quickly recognized her sharp mind and compassionate spirit. Elena became a vocal advocate for various social causes, particularly those related to the elderly and individuals facing economic hardship. She organized student groups, volunteered at local shelters, and wrote compelling articles for the university newspaper, shedding light on issues of neglect and systemic inequality. Her personal story, though not widely publicized, was known to a few trusted mentors, and it fueled her passion. She understood the vulnerability of those on the margins, and she used her education as a tool to amplify their voices. She spoke with an authenticity that resonated deeply, her words carrying the weight of lived experience. Elena was not just learning about the world. She was actively working to change it, proving to herself and others that empathy could be a powerful catalyst for progress. Her journey from a maid's daughter to a promising young leader was a testament to her resilience and the transformative power of kindness. Inspired by his mother's ordeal and Elena's profound compassion, Mr. Harrison underwent a significant personal transformation. The reclusive billionaire, once known primarily for his business acumen, began to channel his vast resources into philanthropy. He established the Harrison Foundation for Elderly Care and Support, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing assistance to vulnerable seniors. The foundation focused on several key areas: providing free meals to low-income elderly individuals, funding research into age-related illnesses, and creating safe, affordable housing options for those at risk of homelessness. He poured millions of dollars into the initiative, but more importantly, he poured his time and energy. He attended board meetings, visited the foundation's outreach programs, and even personally volunteered at some events, a sight that would have been unimaginable just a few years prior. Mr. Harrison became a prominent figure in the philanthropic community, using his wealth and influence to raise awareness and inspire others to contribute. He spoke openly about his mother's experience, acknowledging his past mistakes and emphasizing the importance of community support for the elderly. His transformation was genuine, born from a deep sense of regret and a newfound understanding of human connection. He saw his mother not just as a family member, but as a symbol of all those who silently struggled. The foundation became a living legacy, a way to honor his mother and to ensure that others would not suffer as she had. It was a powerful testament to how a single, unexpected event could fundamentally alter a person's priorities and drive them towards a greater purpose. Meanwhile, Maria's life had also undergone a profound change. No longer burdened by the constant stress of making ends meet, she found a newfound sense of contentment and peace. Her promotion to head housekeeper brought not only financial stability, but also a significant boost in self-respect and professional satisfaction. She managed a team of staff, overseeing the smooth operation of the mansion with her characteristic efficiency and warmth. Her days were still busy, but they were no longer marked by the exhausting physical labor and endless worry that had defined her earlier years. Maria took immense pride in Elena's academic achievements, following her daughter's progress with a beaming smile and a heart full of joy. She often visited Elena at the university, bringing homemade food and listening intently to her daughter's passionate discussions about social justice. The once distant dream of a better future for Elena was now a vibrant reality, unfolding before her eyes. Maria also maintained a close and cherished relationship with Mrs. Harrison Sr. The elderly woman, now fully recovered and thriving, had become like a beloved family member. They shared afternoon teas, quiet conversations, and a bond forged in shared experience and mutual affection. Their laughter often echoed through the grand halls of the mansion, a harmonious blend of two lives unexpectedly intertwined. Maria often reflected on how a simple act of compassion had not only changed her daughter's life, but had also brought unexpected blessings and deep personal fulfillment into her own. The enduring friendship between Elena and Mrs. Harrison Sr. remained a beautiful and powerful testament to the unexpected connections that can form across societal divides. Elena, even amidst her demanding university schedule, made time to visit Mrs. Harrison Sr. regularly. Their conversations ranged from Elena's latest academic pursuits to Mrs. Harrison Sr.'s vivid recollections of her youth, each woman finding solace and inspiration in the other's company. Mrs. Harrison Sr. delighted in Elena's intellectual curiosity, often recommending books and engaging in spirited debates. Elena, in turn, cherished the older woman's wisdom and gentle humor, finding in her a grandmother figure she had never known. Their bond was a living example of how age, wealth, and background could become irrelevant in the face of genuine human connection. It was a friendship built on mutual respect, shared laughter, and an unspoken understanding that transcended their different worlds. Their story was a constant reminder to everyone around them that true empathy knows no boundaries and that the most profound relationships often blossom from the most unexpected encounters. Their connection served as a quiet yet powerful symbol of the transformative power of kindness, a ripple effect that continued to spread hope and understanding within their community and beyond. Years later, Elena graduated from university with the highest honors, her academic journey a testament to her relentless dedication and sharp intellect. Her passion for social justice, ignited by her own family's struggles and the profound encounter with Mrs. Harrison Sr., had deepened into a focused career path. She dedicated her life to improving the lives of marginalized communities, specifically focusing on policies that protected and empowered vulnerable elderly individuals. Elena quickly became a respected voice in her field, her articulate arguments and empathetic approach earning her widespread recognition. She used her platform not for personal gain, but to advocate for systemic change, challenging existing structures that often left the most vulnerable behind. Her story, the Maid's daughter, who found a path to impact through an act of simple kindness, was often cited as an inspiring example of how a single compassionate gesture could ignite a chain of positive events, transforming not just individual lives, but entire communities. She spoke at conferences, advised legislative bodies, and worked tirelessly with grassroots organizations, always carrying the lessons learned from her past. The Harrison Foundation, established by Mr. Harrison in his mother's name, continued to thrive under his dedicated leadership. It had grown into a formidable force for good, providing essential services, safe housing, and companionship programs to countless elderly individuals who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks. Mr. Harrison's transformation from a reclusive, driven billionaire to a compassionate humanitarian was complete. He had found a deeper purpose beyond accumulating wealth, understanding that his resources could be a powerful tool for societal betterment. His legacy was no longer solely tied to his business empire, but also to the profound impact his philanthropy had on the lives of others. The sprawling mansion, once a symbol of detached opulence, now also represented a place of healing, connection, and hope. It hosted charity events, provided temporary respite for those in need, and served as a meeting ground for social innovators. The walls that once housed only the wealthy now echoed with the sounds of purpose and shared humanity. Maria, Elena's mother, found her golden years filled with a quiet contentment she had never imagined possible. She witnessed her daughter's soaring success with immense pride, seeing the positive impact Elena made every single day. Maria continued her work at the Harrison estate, but her role had evolved significantly. She became a mentor to other domestic workers, using her experience and newfound influence to advocate for their rights, better working conditions, and fair wages. She shared her story, inspiring many to believe in the power of perseverance and kindness. Her relationship with Mrs. Harrison Sr. remained a cornerstone of her life, a deep and abiding friendship that transcended their initial roles. They would often sit in the sun-drenched conservatory, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet comfort of mutual respect. Mrs. Harrison Sr. had fully regained her cognitive abilities, her mind sharp and her spirit vibrant, a testament to the power of love, care, and the timely intervention of a kind stranger. The memory of that initial, unassuming encounter at the local cafe remained a powerful touchstone for all involved, a constant reminder of the profound interconnectedness of humanity. It was a story told and retold, a modern fable illustrating that true wealth lay not in material possessions or social standing, but in the boundless kindness we extend to others. The locket, a tangible symbol of that bond, was something Elena always kept close, a reminder of the day her life and so many others, changed forever. It represented a bridge built between vastly different worlds by a simple act of empathy. The narrative of Elena, Maria, Mr. Harrison, and his mother concluded with a powerful message of enduring hope. It proved that even in the face of adversity, neglect, or societal divides, compassion could always prevail. A single moment of selfless care, a simple meal offered without expectation, had ignited a chain reaction that ultimately created a better world for many. It underscored the potential for good within every individual, a dormant seed waiting for the right moment to blossom. Their story served as an evergreen testament to the idea that true transformation begins with a single act of empathy, a beacon of light guiding us towards a more humane and connected future. The world, they learned, was a tapestry woven with countless threads, and sometimes the smallest, most unassuming thread could hold the entire pattern together, making it stronger and more beautiful than anyone could have imagined.